What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Top Dogs podcast here on the field of 68. Tough loss last night for the Huskies. Number 9 team in the country goes on the road, loses 68 to 66 in Finneran Pavilion at Villanova. In a game that I think it's fair to say UConn had a very real chance to win down the stretch. A lot of good things to take away from it. Some silver linings that I want to discuss. I'm not really a big moral victories guy, but there are positives that you can take out of this loss. There are things that I would be heading back to Gamble and heading back to campus feeling good about if I'm the coaching staff there, and some things that maybe weren't necessarily as positive. Before we get into the meat of this thing, please rate, review, subscribe to the pod. All of those interactions, all of that engagement really does help. We're living in a world where the algorithm is king. And any kind of engagement you can provide really does help with those algorithms. And as a content creator, I would very much appreciate it. So I want to start with Alex Karaban here because there's a lot to get to. Obviously, Jaylin Stewart had a great night. Solo ball second half was really impressive. And I loved the game plan that UConn came up with here. But I think we really need to start with Karaban because to me, Alex Karaban is the story. He came into this season as a guy that had first team All-American kind of hype, right? I think we had him as a preseason second team All-American. But when you are the lone returning starter coming back from a team that has won back-to-back national championships, you had a very real chance to be a top 40 pick in the NBA draft, and you decided to come back to school. You were going to walk into a place where there is a ton of fanfare and ton of expectation and a ton of hype on you as a player. And I do think that Karaban has been, I don't want to say disappointing because I don't think he's been disappointing at all. I think he has very clearly gotten better as a basketball player and had a good, if not great, start to the season. And I know there's been a little bit of kind of, I don't want to say fan pushback, but I think people are getting a little bit frustrated that they're not getting more out of Karaban. And I just want to kind of put this into context, right? Last night's loss was not one of Karaban's better games. I think it was probably one of Karaban's worst games. He didn't look like he was all that aggressive offensively. I think he finished with 6 shots from the floor and kind of looked like a guy that was lacking confidence. I think part of that had to do with the fact that against Providence on Sunday, he was the guy that was targeted defensively by Providence over and over and over again, and that's the kind of thing that can get in somebody's head and wear on you a little bit. So I do think he is a little bit of a funk, and we saw that a little bit tonight, especially with the way that game ended and the 2 missed free throws. But let's put this all into context, man. Heading into Villanova, the previous 4 games that he had played, he was averaging 18 points, 5.5 boards, 2 blocks, 2 assists, while shooting 12 for 28 from 3. That's 42% and 50% from the floor. If that's a guy that's in a funk, if that's not good enough for you, I don't know what your expectations for Alex Karaban are. They're probably a little bit out of whack with what reality actually is. Here's my thing with Alex Karaban overall. I don't think he's a guy that is a number one. I don't think that he is a player that is ever going to be a number one option on a team that he plays on. And that's not an insult. That's not detracting against him as a player, because I think he is probably the best second/third option that you're going to find in college basketball. I think he is maybe the best complementary piece in all of college basketball in all of America, right? But he's not Liam McNeely. He's not someone where you run stuff through him and expect him to kind of create, right? He's not somebody that you're going to run and expect him to make life easier for other players. He is the guy that's going to finish stuff that gets created for him. He's the guy that you want out there to create space. He is the guy that is going to be able to make the right reads. He's the guy that's going to be a ball mover. He's the guy that's going to make sure that the ball doesn't stick in his hands when it doesn't need to stick in his hands. He is the piece that makes everything else work offensively. Like, he is one of those, he's the connective tissue that makes UConn's offense work, right? He is an elite complementary piece offensively, and it's why I believe he's going to end up playing a long time in the NBA. Probably as a guy coming off the bench, probably as a guy that is a rotation option, probably as a guy that is never going to end up being a star, probably won't be a starter. I really don't think he's going to end up being an all-star, but he is a player that is going to be really, really effective within the function of a system, right? If you want him to be someone that can kind of run off some pin downs, that you can run off those flare screens, that you can scheme opportunities to get catch and shoot threes for, he's going to be great in those situations. We saw it against Butler. We've seen it at different times this season. He's made a lot of big shots for UConn in those plays. If you want him coming off of a pin down, getting him into that situation where it's a 2-on-1, coming off of a curl, coming off of a dribble handoff, getting him into a situation where he's going 2-on-1 against a big man in drop coverage, and you're asking him to make the correct decision there, that's not his game. That's not what he's great at. So the way that I would think about it is this, right? When he's the number one option, you are asking him to go up and make some of those decisions and make some of those plays and do things that aren't necessarily his strength against the opposing team's best perimeter defender and best big wing defender. When Liam McNeely is on the floor, he's going to be the guy that draws that number one defender's assignment. He's going to be the guy that's at the top of the scouting report. And it means that Alex is going to end up getting somebody else. Maybe it'll be a 4-man that isn't necessarily capable of sticking with him on the perimeter. Maybe it'd be a 2-guard that is a little bit smaller because they have to use the other defenders on Liam McNeely and solo ball. Whatever it is, however that ends up playing out, he's better when he's in that complementary option than as somebody that is there to make all of those decisions and be the first name on the scouting report and be someone that is being relied on to make life easier for other players. That's not his game. That's not his strength. That's not what he's best at. And when he's put into that role, it's something where I don't think it's ideal either for him or for UConn. And again, that is not a criticism of Alex Karaban. He is a very, very, very good basketball player and very, very good at what he does best. That is not what he does best. And I think the criticism of him is unwarranted. I think he is being asked to do something that is not his strength because Liam McNeely is not available. And it's just, it's something where he's in a bad spot. And I think it's very clear that it is something that's weighing on him a little bit, right? You know, here's the way that I think about it. If he was already capable of doing all of those things, right? Let's just say that he was someone that could do what Liam McNeely does on the offensive end of the floor, while also being what he's best at as a contributing role player. Like, he wouldn't be in school. He wouldn't be back. He would have been a lottery pick, a top 20 pick in last year's draft. He'd have a contract right now worth 8 figures. And the reason he's back in school is because it was, 1, to try to develop some of those things, and 2, have a chance to go win a 3rd national championship, and 3, because the option wasn't go and be a top 20 pick. It was like, okay, you're going to fight for a 2nd round pick. Maybe you're going to end up being on a 2-way, whatever it is, or you can come back to school and try to develop some of this stuff. And I just think that the people going in hard on him right now are being really unfair and being really unrealistic in terms of who he is as a player, what he does best, the strengths that he has, and where he contributes to winning. The idea that he's getting heat, he's getting heat when he was the guy that made the big shots to win at Butler. He was the guy that made some big shots down the stretch at Providence, right? He made some big shots against, I think it was Gonzaga in the Garden. And no, he didn't play well against Gonzaga, but he made some big shots at Texas and against Baylor. And when coming into the night, last 4 games, again, I'll reiterate, 18 points, 5.5 rebounds, 2 blocks, 2 assists, 42% from 3, 50% from the floor. The idea that this guy's getting some of the heat that he's getting is just absolutely insane to me. And I would take him shooting free throws with the game on the line 100 times out of 100. I hope that this Georgetown game ends up being a situation where he goes and he has to make a big shot, a game-winning shot, maybe big free throws down the stretch, so he can prove to everyone that's doubting him that he really is the guy that people think he should be, and that some of this criticism is unwarranted. Alex, keep your head up, man. Georgetown is good. UConn's going to need you to be who you are and be confident and play like the bad motherfucker that you are. I think Dan Hurley had a quote where he said he's one of the best winners in college basketball history, the best winner in college basketball today, and a guy that should go home, and if he's feeling sad, go play with the 2 national championship rings that he has in his apartment back in Storrs. And it's not a bad idea, man. It's not a bad idea. Alex needs to just get some confidence back, and he's going to be great. I think to the larger point, I think more than anything, what the Villanova game showed me was just how important McNeely really is to this group offensively. And I already knew it, man, but He just makes offense so much easier because of the fact that he's another guy that can make things easy for his teammates, right? He's got the positional size defensively, and that stuff really does matter. And it moves guys down in the rotation, right? Instead of having Jaylin Stewart or Jaden Ross or Aiden Mahaney having to be in the starting lineup and play 20, 25 minutes, you have them being bench pieces that can come in for 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes here and there off the bench, right? That just makes everything better. But offensively is where it is the complete game changer because it takes a lot of the pressure off Diarra and it gives you another player that can go out there and create something. I think what we saw, especially in the first half, was that UConn had trouble being able to create the shots that they wanted to out of their offense offensively. Yes, there were 9 turnovers. Yes, some of it was they looked a little bit out of sync in terms of some of the stuff that they were running, but it was also a situation where uh, when things kind of bogged down, they didn't really have anyone that they could go to because there isn't really a guy that can go get one on their own. Solo ball is kind of a run off a screen, catch and shoot guy. Karaban kind of at his best is a run off a screen, catch and shoot guy. Samson Johnson is not someone you're going to throw the ball to in the post and expect to go dominate a mismatch, right? That's kind of what we've seen happen. Teams will switch on to him because they don't think he can score on the block. They're probably right. Asan Diarra is not Kemba Walker. He's been terrific this year, but he's not somebody that is just going to kind of break you down and go get you 20. That's teams are going to dare him to try to do that, and they're going to have some success doing it when Liam McNeely's not there. McNeely's the guy that can be the player that, like I said, comes off those DHOs, comes off those ball screens, gets into the two-on-one situations against drop coverage and makes the right decision and makes the right read and can be a guy that can get you, 14, 15, 16 points, 4 assists, 5 assists, not going to turn the ball over. So it is what it is. And I do think that despite all of that, right, despite everything that I just said, Karaban had an off night. Reed wasn't really himself. You didn't have Liam McNeely on the floor. UConn should have gone on the road and beaten a Villanova team that has absolutely gotten better since their slow start to the season and is probably playing their best basketball under Kyle Neptune. Eric Dixon is an absolute monster. Like I don't think I can explain enough, and I think everybody that watches Top Dogs and everybody that is a fan of Big East basketball probably realizes this already. If you don't, you should. But Eric Dixon is the best offensive weapon in college basketball, point blank, period. He can make threes. You put a big guy on him, he's going to take him on the perimeter. He's going to lull you to sleep. He's going to throw some pump fakes. He's going to wait till you start to lean the wrong direction. He's going to get to his left hand. He's going to get you on his shoulder, and he's going to finish at the bucket because he's so freaking strong. You try to switch, put someone smaller on him, he's going to post them up, he's going to back them down, and he's going to muscle through you at the rim because he's so freaking strong. You can run him off of pin downs on the perimeter, and he's going to 1-2 step off a curl into a 28-foot three, and he can make those because he is such a good shooter. Like the dude, it's almost impossible to stop him. And I thought that UConn's defensive effort last night was unreal on him. They held him to 6 of 20 from the floor. Yes, he got to the foul line. Yes, he scored 23. But if you're going to tell me that it's going to take 10 trips to the foul line plus 20 field goal attempts for Eric Dixon to get 23, I will take that every single day of the week against his Villanova program, right? He is that good that he's going to get his. You got to make him earn it, and you got to make him inefficient when he's going to try to get it. And I thought that UConn did that. I thought the game plan was really smart, man. What they did, they started with Stewie on him. They gave Alex some minutes. They gave Jaylin Stewart some minutes on him. But essentially what they did was they put Jaylin Stewart on Eric Dixon and said that you're going to guard this dude until he sets a ball screen. When he sets a ball screen, you're going to switch. The guard is going to go cover Eric Dixon. You're going to try to wedge him out, make him catch the ball 15 feet away from the basket, and on the pass into the post, the big is going to come over and double. After the big comes over and doubles, the weak side wing is going to get to help side, going to make sure that there is not that dump down pass from Dixon to, it was either Enoch Boachi or Chris Parker, and get there, or Mosley, I forget his first name. Get there. Don't let that dump down pass get there. And as soon as the skip pass gets made, because that's the only thing they're going to leave open, as soon as that skip pass get made, they X out, which means that the other help side defender, whoever's guarding the guy at the top of the key, goes to whoever catches the pass. Karaban goes to the other guy on the weak side of the floor. Sampson busts his ass to get back over and guard the big man. and you just kind of get into a closeout rotational kind of situation defensively. And I thought that UConn, they weren't perfect. I don't think you could ask them to be perfect, but I thought they were significantly better in those situations than they were at the start of the season, like scramble stuff, getting out of rotations, being able to make the right read defensively, the right decision defensively. I would say 95 times out of 100, they made the right play and they made the right read. And rotationally and positionally, they were in the right spots on that end of the floor. Now, the difference is that this year they don't have the same level of one-on-one defender, and they don't have the same level of size and physicality and toughness. And it's just a fact of life that right now, someone like a Solo Ball, if he gets put on an island against a player as good as Wooga Poplar or as quick and as talented as Jameer Brickus is, that he's going to have some trouble. There are going to be times where Wooga Poplar can create space and get an open look from three, where Jameer Brickus is going to be able to break down McNeely and kind of get into the lane and have an opportunity to shoot a little turnaround, right? There's going to be situations where our guards get beat one-on-one by the other team's guards. And that's just because the backcourt this year is not the same level of defender. And that's fine, right? That's fine. That's okay. Solo Ball is a sophomore that's still learning on that end. Remember, he might have long arms. He might be super athletic, but the dude is probably 6'1.5" in reality and 185 pounds. And you're asking him to guard some of the best two guards in college basketball. It is what it is, man. It is what it is. You're going to have to deal with it and find a way to work through it. And the other part of it is ending possessions. It wasn't like Villanova completely dominated the offensive glass, but they got extra possessions on some really big moments. We saw Providence get extra possessions in some really big moments. There's just a level of strength and physicality that's not there this year. You go from having someone like a Steph Castle at the three to tonight it was a Jaden Ross at the three. You go from having Cam Spencer and Tristan Newton 6'3", 6'5" in your backcourt to Asan Diar and Solo Ball, who are 6 foot and 6'1". You go from having Donovan Clingan in the paint to Samson Johnson, who's not a great rebounder, or Terrace Reed, who's 5 inches smaller than Donovan Clingan and doesn't have quite the same wingspan. You go from having Alex Karaban be a guy where all he has to do is really just focus on boxing out because you have other guards who can go get that rebound, to being someone that's being relied on to box out and go get the ball because he doesn't quite have the same amount of help on the, like, it's different. It's going to be different this year. It's something that UConn's going to have to work through. And the reality is this: there are going to be runs in every game that UConn's opponents make because they aren't good enough defensively to be able to consistently get stops over and over and over again for 40 minutes. What they are good enough to do is string together 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 consecutive stops, put together 10 minutes where they're able to hold you to one field goal like they did against Providence. They're good enough to be able to have periods where they get really good and really tough defensively for about a 12-minute stretch like they did against Villanova when they turned an 11-point deficit into a 57-55 lead because of what they are offensively and the firepower they have on that end of the floor. Part of the reason that they don't have that quote-unquote killer instinct is because they aren't able to finish those possessions and get the stops because they aren't a great defensive team this year. It is what it is. So I do think that that's just something that you're going to have to deal with. Make sure that you have your heart medicine. Make sure that you have your Mylanta. Make sure that you have your Pepto-Bismol anytime they play, because you're going to get a lot more games like this. And I'll say this too. Remember all that talk about how Dan Hurley couldn't win a close game and he doesn't know how to coach because he loses all these close games and all that? Well, 5 of the last 6 games that UConn played have been close games, hard-fought games down the stretch. They won 4 of them. The only one that they lost was last night in a game where Dan frankly put him in a position to win that game if Alex Karaban makes 2 free throws. So he's coaching his nuts off. It's fun to watch. I love seeing the adjustments. I love seeing the tweaks. I love trying to figure out what their game plan is going to be and then see what that game plan actually looks like in reality. They're switching up every time that they play. It's fun to follow this year. It's not as smooth. It's not going to be as calming as it's been in the past, but it's fun to watch, man, and it's fun to kind of see this staff put in the work and figure it out with the team that is not in this, that is not at the top of the sport the way that they've been the last 2 seasons. One last thought I do just kind of want to throw it out here. I said this a bit on After Dark, and we're going to get to some of the audio from last night's episode here in a second, but I think that this is going to be a really, really good thing for UConn long term, and specifically Jaylin Stewart and Aiden Mahaney long term. Like that, they got something in Jaylin Stewart, man. He's a player. I'm not sure why he has these flashes where he looks as good as he does and then can kind of disappear a little bit. But I think getting force fed these minutes is going to be great for him. He got 32 minutes last night and was the focal point of what UConn was doing defensively. He scored 14 points. I do think that he is going to end up being the guy that is the wing off the bench. And I do think that once we get in a situation where he is the first guy coming off the bench to spell Liam McNeely or Alex Karaban, whatever those guys need to take a seat real quick, I think it's going to be great for UConn long term. And I do think that it puts you in a position where you can get some lineups out there with Hassan Diarra, Liam McNeely, Jaylin Stewart, and Alex Karaban. And I do think that will boost a little bit of what UConn can be on the defensive end. Like that might end up being a lineup that you can close with. I thought Aiden was he was fine last night. It wasn't really the game for him because he kind of ended up on an island, and that was more of a that was more of a game where you had to kind of scheme ways to get solo ball open threes because of the way that Villanova was playing defensively. You weren't put as much on an island as you were against Providence, so it wasn't necessarily the game where Aiden could do what he did best, but came in, had a couple assists, no turnovers, was fought defensively again. And I thought that he's still trending in the right direction. It wasn't as impactful against Providence, but came in and did some good things in the minutes that he did play. I'm trending the other direction on Jaden Ross at this point. Like I want him to kind of turn into what he can be from a potential perspective, but I don't know, man. I don't. There's some things that he does. Like here's the perfect example, right? Last night, UConn gets out to a 57-55 lead. Solo ball has hit 4 threes in the span of like 8 minutes of game time. He's cooking. He's playing some of his best basketball of the Big East schedule. And Jaden Ross comes in, right? And Solo's on the floor. And there's a mistake on the defensive end. I can't remember exactly what happened. I have to go check the tape. But there's a mistake that happens on the defensive end where Ross gives up a bucket, ties the game. Come down on the other end, and it ends up with the way that things are matched up, that Eric Dixon is guarding Solo ball, maybe the best shooter in the Big East, and a guy that has reeled off 4 threes in like 8 minutes. And the UConn calls a play, has a bunch of false motion, and it's supposed to end with Solo ball coming off of a screen, running to his left, off of a pin down to be able to get him a shot. And it's there. They run the set, and it's there. And Jaden Ross is the guy in that play where he is supposed to kind of get the ball to Solo for the shot. And what happens is it takes a little too long. He's got a little pressure. He's trying to dribble, and he ends up breaking off the play and trying to drive to the basket, dribbles into help, misses a really tough layup at the rim. Come down at the other end. It's a tie game. It's about 6 minutes left, and he misses a box out, and Villanova gets a bucket, takes a 59-57 lead. You go to the I think it was the under 8 timeout with 6 minutes left. The crowd starts going nuts because they just blew the lead and then got the lead right back. And then you got to go sit on it for 90 seconds. And UConn was never able to get the lead back after that. And it's just little moments like that where it's kind of like, I don't know, man. I don't know if I see it. And that was not a great play that he made. And it's something where I hope that is a coaching point that the staff will be able to use to say, like, dude, like what? He's got the physical ability, man. It's the other stuff that needs to come along with him. And we'll see if he ends up getting there. But I'll put a ball on it like this. UConn was never going 20-0 in the Big East this season. It just wasn't going to happen. They are not that team this year. You play enough close games, eventually you're going to have the ball bounce the wrong way a couple times. It's tough because they probably should have won and could have won this game. But I do think that UConn learned some things about themselves. They learned some things about their team. The staff learned some things about some of the guys, and there are definitely positives to be taken away from this. Like I said, not a huge moral victory guy. There's definitely things that they're going to be able to put on tape and improve on heading into Georgetown on Saturday. But it was a tough comeback, an impressive comeback, and on the road a game that they probably should have won. And there's things that you can feel good about those things if you are a UConn player or a UConn fan. As an aside, just real quick note, I brought my family to the game last night at Finn, and afterwards, while I was doing the media stuff and trying to get some of the interviews I need to get, my family kind of stood over near the court and was trying to, my son, 9 years old, all sports, everything. It's Eagles, Phillies, and UConn basketball, and he got a fist bump from Jaylin Stewart, who kind of cheered him up because my son took that loss probably harder than anybody else in the gym. He saw Aiden Mahaney, who gave him like the nod and gave him a wave. And he was able to finally muster up the courage after those two players talked to him to go ask Solo Ball for a picture. And Solo took a picture with him, made his day. So there was a 9-year-old that was devastated after the first loss that he's ever seen UConn take in person, coming home with a huge smile on his face and beaming ear to ear. So really awesome gesture from those players. And I'm sure if there are other guys, it's not just them, right? I'm not trying to take shots at anyone else. I'm sure if other guys had come out at that time, the same thing probably would have happened, because it feels like this team is a team that kind of gets it and understands it. And it was really cool, even after a loss like that, to see those guys take the time to be able to make a kid's day. So shout out to them, and shout out to UConn, who will have Georgetown on Saturday. Thomas Sorber, he's a problem, man. I'm telling you, I think the Hoyas are actually a tournament caliber team this year. I don't think that feels crazy to say that, but you give Ed Cooley a point guard, you give him a 5-man, you give him a couple wings, and he's going to find a way to be able to win a bunch of games. So going on the road to whatever the hell that Cap One Arena, whatever the hell it's called now, is going to end up being a difficult game. So hopefully they can find a way to fight through some of the roster limitations at this moment and get a win. Let's get into last night's segment from the Field of 68 After Dark on UConn and Villanova. If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM Sportsbook. We're going to be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68 throughout the year. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, you can use bonus code FIELD, and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. The best part, all you need to do is deposit and bet $10 of your own hard-earned money to be eligible. Here's how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using that bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure that you use that bonus code FIELD when you sign up. BetMGM is going to have some fun offers available throughout the NBA playoffs. Bet insurance tokens, odds boost, and what I love, a nice parlay boost or two from time to time, as well as a ridiculous array of player prop bets for any sport that you could possibly imagine betting on. BetMGM is and always will be the king of the prop bet. So go download the BetMGM app, use the bonus code FIELD, and sign up today. And while I've got you, a quick request. The best way to support the Field of 68 content that you get for free is to engage with us. Rate and review the podcast. Like and share the YouTube videos. Tell your friends about us. It all helps in a world where the algorithm is king. And now, back to the show. Now that the college basketball season is in full swing, you need to make sure that you have access to the best betting tool on the market, the Rhythm app. Spelled RITHMM, is a data-backed app that uses AI and analytics to identify inefficiencies in betting lines and the player prop market that will allow you, the user, to profit. You can create customized, analytics-driven betting models tailored to your personal preferences as a bettor. Users have access to up-to-the-second against the spread data. And if you're like me and you understand pictures better than numbers on a screen, Rhythm's internal trend analysis provides you with the kind of graphs that will allow you to evaluate past results and project future performance in a visual way. Every Division I college basketball team is included in the Rhythm's metrics. Free subscribers to the Field of 68 Daily will get 25% off for a Rhythm subscription. Use the QR code on the screen to sign up or download at the link in the description. We get to, but we got to start, guys. in the Big East. Kenny, I need to let you guys talk about this one first. I need you guys to let you guys lean into this one. UConn down by 11 early second half at Villanova, comes all the way back, takes the lead, punch back from Villanova. They're up by 6 with 2 minutes left. UConn gets the ball down by 1. Final possession. Alex Karaban, they're All-American, heads to the line, 2-time national champion, has never in his career at UConn, missed two straight free throws, bricks them both. UConn loses 68-66 on the road in Finneran Pavilion. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Obviously, you lose McNeely, so you're losing 14 points a game, and I think that's something that they all know that they have to fill that. They have to fill that role somewhere, right? The story of the game obviously is going to be the free throws being missed, but when I was watching that game, throughout most of the game, I felt like, man, UConn's going to lose, and that's not normally something that I think when I'm watching UConn play basketball. So, I think that you have Dixon, who is just like they could ride him all the way to the NCAA tournament. I mean, he's that good of a player, and when he's able to put the team on his back like that, and then get help from Poplar and I can't think of his name right now. Brickus, yeah. Brickus, yeah. When you're able to lean on him and have those guys come in and get buckets and do things that they need to do to win the game, I mean, it's they're a tough team to beat, especially at home.
They deserve to win, right? I mean, I thought they deserved to win the game. I mean, they were controlling the game. I thought not even the free throws, because I didn't think it was a foul. He shouldn't even been to the line. I thought their defensive effort the last 3 plays, man, was huge for Villanova, and they deserved to win the game. I mean, the officials made the call, and immediately I texted out Chet. I was like, "Ball don't lie." I didn't think he'd miss both, but I was honestly, I was hoping he'd miss one just for overtime. I was hoping he'd miss one. I didn't think he'd miss both of them. But listen, man, Villanova was the tougher team. And UConn knows they're going to get everybody's best shot. But credit to Villanova, man, and credit to Kyle Neptune. Like that guy, we all drug him early on. Early in the year, everybody was crushing those guys. Crushing Neptune, and he responded, and his team responded. They needed to get this win, and they got it. So I think it's more about Villanova winning the game and about Kyle Neptune and his squad than UConn. They're going to have games like this. They lost to a good team. I mean, you can make the argument. It's not even an argument. I think Eric Dixon was the best player on the floor. Didn't shoot it great, but he made plays when he had to, and he's obviously a matchup nightmare. So credit to the Villanova for getting it done.
Yeah, Villanova has now run 3 in a row. They are 4-1 in the Big East, and they have won 8 of their last 9 games since a 3-4 start to the season, which I think that turnaround is not something that we're quite talking about enough, right? Like the win over Cincinnati was a big one. The only loss that they have was a close game on the road at Creighton, which is never going to be an easy place to go and play. And now you have a win over a UConn team at home, which this is the kind of victory that can start making some people forget about the fact that there's that St. Joe's loss and there's that Columbia loss. I know they lost to Virginia, but it's Virginia on a neutral. Virginia is still Virginia. Is this, Kenny, do you think this is a team that can be a tournament team, right? This is the kind of resume win that they needed. But are they, when you watch them, let's just go strictly eye test instead of profile. It's too early to start talking about profiles. We have our bracket show coming up January 20th. That's when we can start talking about profiles. Eye test. Is this a tournament team?
In my opinion, yes, because of Dixon. Like, I really think that he's able to carry this team. I brought it up before, but I had a note down here. Nova's up by 6 at the end of the half, and Dixon, I mean, he was barely a part of the team in the first half, and all of a sudden, the first 10 minutes of the second half, he comes out and has 11 points, and it's like a different game. So I think, it's a lot to put on one guy, but I think if you're going to have to put it on a guy, Dixon's the guy that you want to do that to.
Yeah, Randolph, what is the most impressive part about this turnaround for you for Villanova?
Again, I don't know if it's anything in particular that stands out with them. I mean, I think Eric Dixon is the best player on the floor most nights when he walks out there. I think the only thing that hurts this team is if he settles. I think when he settles from 3, obviously he was shooting the lights out of it before coming into tonight's game. But I think in certain games like this in the Big East, he's going to have to pick matchups, right, and be more exact in how he attack it. Like set ball screens, if they switch, go inside. he's got to attack the paint a little bit more. I think he's settled. I think, first half of his shots in the first half was just from behind the 3-point line. They were 30-footers. He's bailing you out with that. And I don't think it's just necessarily for him. I think his teammates, for the rest of the team, they need him to be involved in the action so they can score. So if he plays more inside out, I think he can wield this team to the NCAA tournament. But it's going to be tough in the Big East. But in matchups like this, he took care of business against UConn. Again, he was the best player on the floor. So when you have that, you always got a chance.
Yeah, if they can get to 12-8 in the league, and they can take care of business against the likes of St. John's and Marquette at home as well, then I think we have a real conversation to have about them potentially being a tournament team. And if they get to the tournament, man, that'd be a really impressive thing considering where they were at the start of the year. I was able to catch up with Kyle Neptune after this game, and we talked a little bit about this turnaround, this performance, and what it means for this group moving forward. Now, welcome onto the Field of 68 After Dark. Kyle Neptune, Villanova head coach, big win over UConn. What'd you see at the end there? You got Eric Dixon had a big three, Ruga Poplar had a big three. How'd you guys close this one out?
I thought we got some stops towards the end. I thought we did a good job defensively in the first half. I thought we started the second half pretty good defensively, and give UConn a lot of credit. They're a big-time program, big-time coach. They got big-time players over there. They made a run. And then I give our guys a lot of credit too. They took a couple hits, took a lot of hits, they lost the lead, and then just kept coming towards the end and got some stops when we needed to. And then we know we got some guys who can make shots in big time moments. Eric Dixon's one of them. Obviously, Ruga Poplar's one of them as well. So we don't really worry about scoring. We need to be a program that gets stops. Especially in the rough and tumble Big East. So I was proud that our guys were able to do that.
That was the thing that stood out to me is you guys were up by, I think it was 11 at one point.
Yeah.
UConn comes back. They get the lead on that solo ball three.
Yeah.
And you guys immediately go on a 10-2 run and kind of didn't put it away, but you took the lead. You were up by 6 with 2 minutes left. So you got to feel good in that spot.
Yeah. You just know that they're not going to just lay down and say, all right, you guys got it with a minute, 2 minutes, whatever it is. So, we just told our guys we just got to keep coming, keep getting stops. And as a coach, it's kind of out of your hands a little bit. You can tell your guys all you want, what you want them to do. It's on them to go on the court and do it. And I thought our guys came together and got it done.
You guys didn't have the greatest start to the year, and it's easy for a team that loses a couple games early, especially in this day and age, to kind of have the thing go off the rails. And it didn't happen for you guys. You're 4-1 in the Big East now. This kind of win puts you in the NCAA tournament picture clearly. So, what's changed? How have you gotten this thing going?
I thought we were just patient in the beginning of the year. We had a lot of new guys. We got some guys in different roles, and we just had to try to understand how we needed to play. There's a lot of long nights as a staff, hanging out together and just getting better as a complete program. And I give our guys a lot of credit. Like you mentioned, it's not easy to go through tough times, but I think they either break you or make you better. And our guys, to their credit, have gotten a lot better over the last couple weeks here.
Have they been kind of feeling that pressure?
I don't think so. We try to just focus on the next best action. And we talked to our guys about, all right, we're going into a film session. Let's lock in for this film session. Going to our practice. This should be our best practice of the year, and just stack those up. But again, as a coach, you can tell your guys and ask your guys to do whatever they want. They got to choose to do it. And so I give those guys a lot of credit.
Last thing I got for you, Eric Dixon. I don't know if we heard Dan call him the best offensive player in college basketball.
I believe so.
You got a platform here. Give us your pitch. Why is he the best player in college basketball? Promote him.
I think that, I personally, I've been around for a long time. I look at the last guy that's like him was the McDermott kid from Creighton. Other than him, with that size, the way he shoots it, post up, mid row, whatever you want to do, he's just a tough out. He's a tough out. So, I think he's passing.
It's nice to have a player like that on your team.
I'm very, very excited to have him on our team. And as good as he is as a player, he's a way better person. And now he's also become an amazing leader for our program. Such a great pillar for all those guys to look at as if you keep working, what you can be. This guy's a player that redshirted his first year in college basketball. Shed weight. Had to work on his right hand, had to work on defense, had to work on shooting, and just got better each year, came back with something new in his game each year. So those are the guys you root for. He's a guy that you look back and you're like, man, this kid did it the right way, and he deserves everything he gets.
Hell of a win, man.
Thank you, appreciate that.
I'm happy for Kyle, man. They needed that win. He needed that win. The program needed that win, and it's nice to see Villanova kind of getting back on the right track here. I do believe that they have kind of found something here, and they're going to be able to find a way to get this thing rolling forward. From a UConn perspective, RC, and then I want your take on this too, Kenny. Are you worried about them? Because I came out of this thinking, especially the last two games, without Liam McNeely, to me, long term, getting Jaylin Stewart the minutes and the reps and a chance to be able to play 32 minutes in a game like this, in a role like that, and have that success and confidence. And then Aiden Mahaney on Sunday against Providence won them that game in the second half. If they're going to make a run in the tournament, they need those two dudes to play at this level and being able to get them those opportunities and kind of force feed them minutes. Maybe isn't the worst thing in the world if McNeely's going to end up coming back.
He's going to come back, and what he's going to do when he comes back. And it just adds another offensive weapon. I think Mahaney production from the bench would be a key for them. His ability to knock down shots. If he can ever live up to the expectation that they had for him coming in, if he settles into that role, then UConn can be UConn again. And they're going to defend. They're going to compete. We know they're well coached. They'll be right there in the end. So I wouldn't worry about them. I just think as they get these reps, these guys get these reps, and when it matters, this is a team we're going to see in a tournament. They're going to have a top 3 seed, and we'll see where they're healthy, if they're healthy, and hoping that they got all the guys like Mahaney playing at their best. If they are, then I'm not counting out UConn.
Kenny?
Yeah, I think that it really is it's how the player takes it, the guy that's getting those minutes because there's somebody out. Does he take that and say, I'm going to make the most of this, or is he going to sit there and say, well, I'm not going to have these minutes when McNeely comes back? I think that's a player-by-player thing. But the thing about UConn for me, outside of all of that stuff, is that when teams play against them, they never they always keep tension on the rope. And Kyle Neptune said something about it, how they're not just going to lay down for you in the last minute or two. It feels like they always have that punch to come back that makes you think we got to get this defensive stopper. We got to get a bucket here. And that's something that's come from being a winning program for a long time, but especially in the last 2 years. So I don't really think that I'm nervous about UConn. They have a lot of experience. They have a lot of good players. Obviously they're a winning program, and that's, that culture is something that in college basketball it can make a good team great, and I think that that's kind of the position that they're in right now.
Yeah, the
credit
way that
to
I
those
look
guys,
at it,
man. They're playing up to a championship expectations, man. When the backup guys were part of that. Karaban was not the top guy. He was not the main guy. He's just stepping into a leadership role and a role for a team that's a back-to-back champion, man. We've never seen this, a back-to-back champion team, and then the third year, you're still good enough to compete and be in conversation for a national championship. And when you got a lot of guys who didn't contribute, trying to live up to that is a problem. And I think that's what Hurley's managing right now. It's he's got to be fair to his guys, and he's also that's why he's got to make comments like, "Hey, if you're feeling bad about yourself, look at our rings." There's some truth to that because everybody's crushing them and comparing them to those teams that was national championships, man. And we've never seen a team win back-to-back and then come back a third year and be this good and be considered legitimately for a third title. We've never seen it. And you wouldn't expect to see that in today's times of all. So they're living up to expectations set by a program. They all know what they signed up for. They got to be healthy. They got to get some guys from the bench. Mahaney playing more consistent to give them a legitimate shot. But they're chasing history, man, and it's going to be hard as hell. And you got to be Hurley knows it better than anybody, man, how you got to deal with this team, riding the emotional roller coaster that this team is going to be on all year long.
Yeah, I've been telling people all year that I think that the big key has been, and I think you've seen a little bit of a change in Dan, is it's not perfection that you're striving for. The last 2 years, you're going out there and you're saying, we're going to do what we do, and you're not going to be able to stop it because we are better than you. All that matters is us perfecting the stuff that we do because we're going to change how you play. And this year, they don't have those guys. This year, it's more of there's got to be a teaching element to it for Dan with some of these younger players. And I think that you kind of saw, especially when they got back from Maui, you saw a little change that mindset from I am expecting a level of a level of perfection to, all right, I have to get these guys to the point that they can compete at that level. And I think that's when you saw their season kind of flip in terms of worried about them. As long as McNeely gets back and he's back to being the guy that he was for the 3 weeks before he got hurt, they're going to be just fine. And having Jaylin Stewart play at this level and getting Aiden Mahaney capable of doing the things that he did, like against Providence or in the first half against Baylor, they'll be just fine, man. I'm not going to sweat out losing on the road because the winningest player in college basketball missed 2 free throws, which he has literally never done in his life before.